Hi, Nara. Hi, everybody.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yes. We only have about 15 minutes, so I'm going to jump right in. This is going to be part of the Tiny Town
Okay.
Halls. It's a whirlwind. I'd love to have you take a minute or two, and I'll stop you at two to give a brief stump and tell everyone why you're running for Senate District 15.
Thank you. I'm Ann Ravel, and I'm running for State Senate in District 15, which is the South Bay near San Jose and a lot of cities from the east to west. Um, I have never been in elected office before, but I have been a public servant for most of my career, both at the county level, the state level appointed by Governor Brown, and also at the federal level, appointed twice by President Obama. And the first one was in the Justice Department. And I can talk a little bit about this if people are interested. But I have always seen my task in all of those positions was to make a difference in the community. And I will say, just to talk about marijuana and in my era as opposed to cannabis, which it was good to hear from your previous speaker about some of the issues that are still going on with law enforcement. And I have to say I have I have a story to tell you in your next question, but I have a long history with this because both my husband to be and my brother have, because of their activities in the 70s, 60s, and 70s, both have criminal records for marijuana. And that was a really big issue in our sort of lives at the time. And so I understand completely the concerns about mostly people of color who are still under that cloud. And I also care deeply about just the general, that's continuing perspective about cannabis and the fact that there is still stigma attached, and both at the state, local, and federal level in ways that is inappropriate. And so for me, that would be a really important aspect of what I would do. But I would say, generally, the issues that I care about most in my community, and I know we were talking about small business. Small business is so important. It's important so people have jobs, and it's important so that all people have an opportunity to get ahead in our communities, especially in Silicon Valley, where the extremes are so great economically, and it's absolutely untenable because it manifests itself in so many ways. It manifests itself in healthcare, manifests itself in crime statistics, it manifests itself in just the lack of equal education and childcare and everything. And so those are the things that I care about, and that's why I'm running.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like that's the real trickle down economics, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So our first question that we're asking everybody is, what is your favorite cannabis product or way to ingest, favorite strain, or your favorite cannabis story? Or you can give us all of them.
I'll give you two. So my spouse is the person who uses CBD now because he couldn't sleep, and he loves gummy bears. So that's the favorite. But my favorite story actually is, and it opened my eyes, and this was in the summer of love after my first year of college, and I was 17 years old, and my brother and I and someone who was a friend from high school who later became a judge, we opened a store in downtown San Jose called the High Shop. And that store It was this, as I said, the summer of love. But what we had was a little room in the back with black lights, and we sold Janis Joplin posters for those of you who are aware of these things, and rolling papers and the like. And honestly, every single day the police came in and essentially raided us, and we were not selling anything at the
They
time.
were all
But
tobacco water pipes.
yes, that's what we had. In fact, my husband still says that he um, gave us a hookah to sell and that we cheated him out of it. He tells me this to this day, that we didn't pay him. So, it was quite an experience to see the level of police response, even to us in this little tiny store in downtown San Jose. And believe me, it left an important imprint on me, as to how I view things today as well. And I'm certainly, anyway, I won't go on. I know you want to ask another question, but
Yes. But I think it's an easy transition into, what is the current state of
mhm.
cannabis? What do you think of where we are today?
Right. Well, and I do want to start off with some of the issues of how important it is to normalize cannabis and take the stigma away. And we are still there. And I know this, I'm a lawyer. And so I do a lot of reading on issues, including relating to this. And I saw that there was just a case actually decided at the 6th District Court of Appeal, which is in Santa Clara County, but it arose out of Santa Cruz. And in Santa Cruz, there was a zoning violation very recently relating to a marijuana dispensary, and there was a violation. And what they did, instead of just dealing with what is essentially a very sort of straightforward zoning violation question, they went and they raided them and took away all their medical marijuana plants. And that is an example of how things have not changed sufficiently, either in law enforcement or in our laws, to protect this, because they are legal. And the fact that they use that as an excuse to go do that, I think, is really indicative of some of the problems we're still facing. And fortunately, just to say, the Court of Appeal overturned it. So they said it was inappropriate to do, but that is clearly something that we have to work on and deal with continually. But I think it was explained fairly clearly too, the issue of taxes, and that's something that I think I could affect at the state level, is really problematic.
Into answering question number 3 then, because
sorry.
You started, and so let's
Okay.
So,
but yeah, I think that's the state also. I agree with her. But yes, question number 3, there's a couple things you could do at the state level. Number 1, taxes, which clearly are prohibitive and particularly difficult for small businesses. And of course, what the state wants to do and should want to do is to divert the cannabis businesses to those that are legal and to those who are following the law, and instead of sending it to black market, which I think would be a really important reason for doing this. I also know that the state has some money set aside for research on marijuana and on its beneficial effects, but it's insufficient. And I think that goes a long way to the normalization issue of cannabis, to do that research. And so I think that would be something also that should be increased, because it can change that perspective. But the state also needs to do more about the illegal storefronts, and that is something that is possible to do. I also have to say, because of my experience at the Department of Justice and other, I've been endorsed by President Obama, and I'm working in some ways with the Biden team. I think if there is a change in the federal government, in the presidency, that there is some hope. And I think I could have some influence on making changes in federal law, which I think is also untenable in this time. That we should really be changing, and it needs more pressure from states to make that difference,
Yeah,
including the tax issues at the federal level.
yeah, exactly. The two issues are, yeah, are
Right,
enormous.
which compound the problems.
Mhm.
Exactly. So those are some of the things that I've thought of, and of course, everybody is concerned about access to banking as well, and that is something that I think needs to happen.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We need big movement at the federal or some very creative thinking at the state level to allow.
Exactly.
So we had your opponent on last month, and he's been endorsed by UFCW, which is a union that a lot of cannabis companies work with, and has been an ally of the cannabis industry. And so I'd love to hear how how your background and all of that can serve the cannabis community
Right.
better.
Well, I would say, for my opponent, he's actually opposed marijuana and cannabis. He has opposed these industries. The county does not permit it. And so no matter what he told you or what he's told the unions about it, that's the fact. And that's one of the issues that we have, because San Jose has permitted it, whereas, the county does not. And so there's often these tensions with San
There was
Jose's.
a big fight in Santa Clara trying to during the time to deem cannabis an essential business. I remember that was
Exactly.
a really difficult
That's
fight.
exactly right. There and so I think that, frankly, the person who is going to be one more effective at being able to achieve change, both at the state level and also working with the federal government, given my experience in all levels of government and understanding how to work with them. And by the way, you're talking about small business. I have been endorsed by the SBO locally, which is small business oriented, as well as the state chamber, for that reason. Because what I know is we need to support businesses, and the way that you support businesses is important, because then it actually has an impact on everyone in the community and makes a difference in their lives. So I would say my ability to advocate for these issues is because of my background, because of my knowledge, because of my experience in government, is going to make a big difference for this industry.
And your experience, selling Janis Joplin posters and water pipes, right?
Well, there is that.
We need more people in government who have some depth, some years in whatever form the cannabis industry has been in, as it's been. So I need to wrap up. If you want to drop your website or anything into the chat, we can do that. And then if you wanted to take maybe 30 seconds to add anything that you didn't get.
Yeah, well, I really do appreciate being here, because it was great to hear your issues and to talk to others, Susan, about your issues as well in the advance. And she suggested that I go and visit a dispensary in San Jose, which I did. And I was incredibly impressed by the professionalism and by the growing techniques and all of the things that people are concerned about the ways to keep children and underage people out, and the concerns about security as well that we were just hearing about. And so I think that those are things that we need to tout and we need to support, because I know in San Jose it is a huge influx into their tax base, and it's really an important industry that shouldn't continue to have some of those trappings of concerns. And I totally agree that previous given my own family's experience, people with previous records, they should be expunged, all of those things. And so I am so happy to, I'm going over my 30 seconds. I know you're looking at the time. And so I am also, I'm happy to put in the chat my personal email and my phone number. And if anybody wants to talk to me, I'd love to do so. Thank you.
Thanks for